The worst leader of them all, the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. Mrs. von der Leyen, do you think about what you have done? Do you think about the people who suffer because of your policies? Do you think about the people who have died because of the vaccine that you pushed on them, that you bought behind closed doors?
People were forced to be vaccinated with a medical product in order to exercise their basic fundamental rights, and they were told, and we were told, that if you get vaccinated, you will not be infected, and you will not spread the virus. They even ran a campaign and said, get vaccinated in order to keep your grandmother and your parents healthy.
You deserve the freedom to be safe from COVID-19.
This would be the second time the Prime Minister has tested positive.
We choose truth over facts.
And the vaccine is efficient.
We choose truth over facts.
2 doses of this vaccine is the greatest protection that you can have.
The Swedish royals are among the latest victims of COVID-19. The Swedish royal courts confirmed that Gustaf of Sweden, King Carl XVI and his wife Queen Sylvia have tested positive for the coronavirus.
Mrs. von der Leyen, do you ever think about the cries of the mothers who cry at night because their children were raped or murdered by immigrants that you let in?
Greater Manchester Police are currently investigating more than 1,000 more rape gang suspects, and these are stories being told by 714 more alleged victims. And just to make sure that you're aware of the scale of this, I'm sure you all are, but there are estimated in total to be 250,000 victims of this scourge.
It wasn't just abuse, it was hideous torture. For those of us who actually know what has gone on.
In Ireland, you see these migrants just come up and randomly stab a Gardaí, screaming Allah Akbar, stabbed him 3 or 4 times in the side before they even knew what the fuck was going on.
Do you ever think about the farmers whose entire life's work were destroyed because you pushed the communist agenda? Do you ever think about the people who cannot afford food for their children because you implemented policies that are crippling our economy while you were able to send your 7 children off to the most expensive schools in Europe? Do you ever think about that? Our regime uses pretty words to hide their intentions, but they pervert and invert our definitions all the time. They say that to maintain peace in Europe, we need to go to war with Russia. They say that to protect democracy, we have to ban right-wing parties. And they say that to safeguard freedom of speech, they need to censor disinformation.
There's story after story about people being thrown behind bars in the UK, even for tweets that they have deleted, with longer prison sentences than people who've committed actual physical violent crimes.
Yeah, that's right, Guy. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible story. I mean, there's a woman that's in prison for 31 months, which is 4 months longer than a child rapist is in prison. And what all she did was have a tweet up for 4 hours that she ended up taking down. This is a sweeping crackdown on free speech in Great Britain that we have not seen anything like in maybe hundreds of years. I mean, it's really astonishing. It's happening on multiple levels. Keep in mind, they were already arresting 30 people a day for wrong speech in Britain before this. Now they have a special police task force to constantly monitor social media, including X, formerly Twitter, and they they can stop content based on age verification. So they can stop content saying, oh, this is harmful to mental health. And then X recently, just a few days ago, did block content on the basis of the British order to be able to identify if people were old enough to see it. So the other thing you mentioned there was the Islamophobia. They're not going to allow people to criticize mass migration. They're going to call it Islamophobia and a hate crime and prevent it. So this is George Orwell. I mean, George Orwell perfectly predicted this in 1984 when he wrote his book in the mid-40s.
You know, Michael, I was just in Europe at a conference and talking to a number of the people there. I mean, they are married to this idea that you have to monitor the internet, that you shouldn't be able to say certain basic things, including posting memes or things that are counter to what they believe politically in terms of the political party that's in charge. It's not just the UK, it's also the EU. They have this new Digital Services Act, which is complicated trade between the United States and the European Union. And even the deal that the president just got, it's an issue that has not been satisfied according to the administration. So I don't see this going in a direction that's going to get better despite the pressure. I mean, the UK and the EU are really dedicated to this idea of putting people in prison for saying the wrong thing or thinking the wrong thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Europe's crackdown is maybe the worst in the world, but I mean, it's happening everywhere, and it's actually, unfortunately, accelerated since Trump was elected. So it's the EU, it's Britain, it's Ireland wants to read your private text messages. Canada, Brazil. The strategy here is to make it so that the social media companies will basically censor this content for everybody. So I think a lot of Americans go, I don't really care what happens in some other country, Britain or Europe. They should care because this is a strategy to basically encircle the United States and then have these social media companies pressure that they just censor this content for everybody. It's coming at a time when it's overtly political. The populist parties in Europe, just like Trump and the MAGA Republicans in the United States, are focused on mass migration. So they want to censor that content because it's been so politically powerful for these opposition leaders, including Germany, France, Romania. They're basically trying to prevent the opposition from competing at all, both through censorship and just keeping them off the ballot. I will just say one positive thing is that Trump today, yesterday he called out the Prime Minister in Britain. Today he's imposed serious tariffs on Brazil because of their censorship and because of their lawfare in preventing a presidential frontrunner, the last president, Bolsonaro, from competing in next year's elections.
Well, and also, just to add to that, I mean, Americans now have to worry about traveling to Europe and saying the wrong thing or posting the wrong thing or have posted the wrong thing many years ago. Being in these so-called Western countries, they could face arrest by the Europeans or the Canadians.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's how 1984 works, is they want you to be afraid of what you're going to say. They want you to be afraid of saying something controversial and then not expressing it. That's one of the most damaging things to free speech here. America was founded on the idea we have to be free to speak our minds. Europe has taken us in an absolutely terrifying and totalitarian direction.
Yeah.
Just like in Orwell's 1984, war is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we can find the embodiment of that regime in one person in particular. The worst leader of them all, the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen.